I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. Lisa and I have been together for almost 8 years. We got married 3 of those years ago, and for the most part, I thought we had a pretty solid relationship. Yeah, we had our disagreements, mostly about money or her sometimes being a little too dismissive when I needed her to listen. But I always trusted her. That's what makes this whole thing so much worse. It started small at first. Little things that I brushed off as just her being busy or tired. She'd be on her phone more than usual, hiding her screen when I walked into the room, but I figured maybe it was just work stuff or her chatting with her friends. Lisa had always been a bit bitchy when she didn't get her way, and she loved to lie her way out of trouble, so I never really pressed her about it. I figured I'd give her space. But something shifted a few weeks ago, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. It was the night of our company holiday party. We'd been looking forward to it all year, an excuse to dress up, drink a little too much, and have some fun. Lisa was excited. She always wanted to impress her boss, Mr. Carter. He's a smooth talker, always flattering her, always making her feel special. She'd been talking about him for weeks, saying how he was so charming, so successful. I didn't think much of it. I trusted her, or so I thought. That night she left early, claiming she wasn't feeling great. Said she was tired and just wanted to go home and relax. I stayed behind with some friends, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Maybe it was the way she rushed out, or how she kept texting someone on her phone during the party. I didn't look too hard, but I noticed her hiding the screen whenever she thought I wasn't looking. It was subtle, but it stuck with me. 2 days later, I was cleaning up some stuff in our bedroom when I found her phone lying on the dresser. I usually wouldn't snoop, but I just had this gut feeling. I looked at her messages, and what I saw made my stomach drop. There were messages between her and her boss, Carter, that went beyond anything appropriate for a boss and an employee. It was flirty, suggestive, and downright inappropriate. They were talking about their secret, about how nobody could know, and even about plans to meet up privately. She was telling him she was so excited to see him again, and he kept calling her beautiful and sexy. I couldn't believe it. I sat there, stunned, staring at the screen for what felt like forever. My head was spinning. I kept asking myself how I didn't see this coming. How I could be so blind. I thought I knew her, thought we had a good thing going, but clearly I was just fooling myself. That night I stayed up till dawn, reading through every message, every photo, every little detail. This wasn't just a fling, this was real. It was an affair. A full-blown affair with her boss at her own company. And she lied to me about everything, about being just friends, about her feeling tired, about her not knowing what Carter wanted from her. My mind raced. I felt sick. You hear about these things happening to other people, but when it's your own wife, when it's happening right in your own house, it's a punch to the gut, a betrayal so deep it's hard to even process. I remember holding her phone in my hand, staring at her messages, feeling this cold rage bubble up inside me. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to go through her stuff, but this wasn't about trust anymore. It was about survival. I had to decide what to do next, and honestly, I wasn't sure if I could stay in this marriage after what I'd found out. The shock hit me like a freight train. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind, so naive. Lisa had always been a bit bitchy, sure, but I never thought she'd do something like this, cheat on me with her boss at a company party of all places. I kept thinking about how she'd lied to my face when I asked her if she was cheating. She insisted she was just friends with Carter, that there was nothing going on. Yeah, right. That lie made me feel even more furious. She always had a way of twisting things, making herself look innocent, the victim. But I knew better now. I remember pacing around the living room trying to process what I'd seen. My mind kept replaying her messages, flaunting her attraction, her desire, her secret plans. She had written things like, "Can't wait to see you again, babe," and "Tonight was so hot, I don't want it to end." I felt a boiling rage. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily? I was furious at her, but also disappointed in myself for not seeing the signs earlier. How many times had I ignored the way she dismissed me, the way she brushed me off when I wanted to talk? Then came the moment I knew I couldn't keep quiet. I grabbed her phone and confronted her. I told her I saw everything, her messages, the flirtation, the plans. Her reaction was infuriating. She rolled her eyes, scoffed, and called me paranoid. "You're overreacting," she snapped. It's just sex and it's nothing serious. Carter's just a friend. You're making a big deal out of nothing." Her voice was so dismissive, so bitchy, like I was the crazy one for feeling hurt. I exploded. I told her I had enough, that I couldn't handle the lies anymore. I said I wanted to know the truth, if she'd been sleeping with him, if she'd been lying about everything. Her response: she laughed, a cold, sharp laugh that sent shivers down my spine. "Oh, please," she sneered. "You think I'd cheat on you with him? Carter's just my boss, that's all. You're so insecure, it's pathetic. I was just talking to him as part of my job. You're making a mountain out of a molehill." She looked me dead in the eyes and lied again, trying to gaslight me into doubting what I saw. It made my blood boil. How could she be so cruel? How could she keep denying what was right in front of my face? The emotional impact hit me hard. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and deeply hurt. All those years I'd trusted her, loved her, and she was out there sneaking around behind my back. I didn't know whether to scream, cry, or punch something. I just stood there, stunned, trying to hold it together. But inside, I was crumbling. The image of her with Carter, laughing, flirting, touching, things I never imagined her doing with anyone else, kept flashing through my mind. It was like a punch to the stomach every time I thought about it. In the days that followed, I kept asking myself what I did wrong. Was I not enough? Did I miss the signs? How could she treat me this way? The betrayal cut so deep I couldn't even look at her without feeling a surge of anger and sadness all at once. I started questioning everything: the foundation of our marriage, our future, whether I could even trust her again. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just about trust anymore. It was about respect. And she had completely lost mine. After that confrontation, everything changed. I started noticing her behavior even more, how she was suddenly more dismissive, how she'd go out of her way to avoid me. She'd leave her phone lying around, sometimes even forget to hide her messages. I didn't look anymore. I was done trusting her. Instead, I just watched her, waiting for her to slip up again. I felt like I was walking on eggshells, like I was in some kind of slow-motion nightmare I couldn't wake up from. One afternoon, I came home early from work. I didn't plan it, but I just had this gut feeling I needed to see her. I wanted her to know I wasn't going to let her get away with it. When I stepped inside, I heard her voice coming from the bedroom. My heart dropped. She was on the phone, whispering, and I immediately recognized Carter's name in her voice. I froze, trying to listen without her noticing. I heard her say, "Yes, I can't wait to see you tonight. I've been thinking about what we did at the party and I want more." My stomach twisted. She was planning to meet him again. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed in and slammed the door shut. She looked startled, like she'd been caught doing something she knew she shouldn't be doing. Her face went pale. "Who were you talking to?" I demanded, voice trembling with rage. She tried to play it cool, brushing it off, saying it was just some old friend. I didn't buy it. Her eyes darted around and I saw the guilt written all over her face. I told her I knew everything about her messages, her plans, her lies. Her reaction was nothing short of infuriating. She rolled her eyes, snapped her fingers, and said, "You're overreacting. Seriously, you're paranoid. Maybe you're just jealous because Carter pays attention to me." She looked at me with that bitchy smirk, like she was proud of herself for being so clever, so manipulative. I couldn't believe her audacity. I felt so angry, so betrayed, that I almost lost control right then and there. I told her that I wasn't going to be played anymore, that I was sick of her lying, her sneaking around, her pretending she was innocent. I told her I deserved the truth, no more bullshit, no more excuses, but she just shrugged, acting like I was the problem. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill," she said flatly. "You're insecure and needy. Carter's just a boss, a little fun. You're overreacting because you're insecure." That word, insecure, hit me like a punch to the gut, because I knew she was right. I was insecure, but it wasn't about that. It was about respect, about honesty, and she'd just thrown all that away. That night I couldn't sleep. My head was spinning with questions and rage. How could she do this? How could she treat me like I was nothing? I kept replaying her words, her lies, her sneers. I wondered if I ever really knew her at all. For the first time in my life, I felt like a complete idiot for trusting someone so manipulative. I started thinking about what I was going to do next. That's when the real decision hit me. Do I stay and try to fix this, Or do I cut her loose and start over? What hurt the most is how she kept lying even now. She kept insisting she was innocent, that it was all just a misunderstanding, that Carter meant nothing. But I knew better. I saw the messages, the texts, the way she acted when she thought I wasn't looking. I felt this deep sense of betrayal that I couldn't shake. I thought about confronting her again, about telling her I was done, but I also felt a strange sense of numbness settling in. I wasn't sure if I was more hurt or just exhausted from the emotional roller coaster. All I knew was that her lies had shattered what little trust I had left, and I didn't see any way back from this. In the days that followed, everything seemed to fall apart in slow motion. I kept trying to process what I'd discovered, but mostly I just felt numb. I walked around the house like a ghost, going through the motions, pretending I wasn't dying inside. Whenever I looked at her, I saw the same cold lies in her eyes. She still insisted she was just friends with Carter, that nothing serious had happened, that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I'd seen the messages. I'd heard her voice. There was no way she could keep spinning these stories. One evening she came home late again, smelling like perfume and alcohol. I remember she tried to act like nothing was wrong, giving me that bitchy smirk that she'd mastered. I looked right at her and said, "Tell me the truth, does Carter know about us, about what you did at the party?" Her eyes flicked and she scoffed. "You're crazy, I don't know what you're talking about." But I wasn't buying it. I could see it in her face. She was already planning her next lie, her next cover-up. I felt my blood boil. I was losing my patience, my respect, my sanity. I decided to do something drastic. I pulled out her phone again, knowing she'd be mad, but this time I was determined. I wanted proof. I needed to know exactly how deep this went. I started digging through her messages, her photos, everything I could find. And what I uncovered made my stomach turn. There were explicit messages, pictures of her with Carter, even plans for them to meet up again, this time at a hotel. She'd been hiding all of it, lying straight to my face. The betrayal was so wrapped up in her lies that I felt like I was suffocating. That night I finally decided I'd had enough. I sat her down, looked her in the eyes, and told her I was done. I said, "I've seen everything. I know about the sex, the meetings, the lies. I can't do this anymore." Her reaction, she laughed again, that bitchy laugh that made my skin crawl. "You're just insecure," she said. "You're jealous and need to get a grip. Carter and I are just having fun. You're overreacting because you're a control freak." That word, control freak, hit me hard, because I realized she'd been controlling the narrative from the start, trying to make me doubt myself, trying to keep me from knowing the truth. I told her I was leaving, that I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies and betrayal. She begged, of course, said she was sorry, that she loved me, that she'd stop seeing Carter. But I could see the truth in her eyes. She didn't love me. Not really. She loved the attention, the thrill, the power she had over me. The rage, the heartbreak, the disappointment all hit me simultaneously. It was like I was standing on the edge of a cliff, ready to fall into this endless abyss of betrayal. I packed a bag that night, not knowing exactly what I was going to do next, but knowing I couldn't stay. I left her standing there, still lying, still playing her games. The house felt cold and empty without her. I felt like I'd lost everything, my trust, my marriage, my sense of stability. And as I drove away that night, I realized something brutal. I'd been a fool. I'd trusted her more than I should have, and now I had to figure out how to rebuild my life from the wreckage she left behind. The days after I left were a blur. I stayed at a friend's place trying to gather my thoughts. Everywhere I looked, I saw her face, heard her voice, remembered the lies. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything, her sneaking around, her dismissiveness, the way she'd lied over and over again. It's crazy how someone you loved and trusted can turn into a stranger so fast. I felt a mix of deep sadness, anger, and betrayal. Honestly, I didn't even know who I was anymore. I kept asking myself if I should try to fix things, if there was any way back from this. But every time I thought about her, with Carter, lying, cheating, I felt this overwhelming disgust. I realized that I'd been a fool for so long, ignoring all the signs, letting her treat me like I was invisible. The more I thought about it, the more I understood that I deserved better. This wasn't just about the cheating, it was about respect and honesty. And she'd thrown that all away. I remember sitting in my car one night, staring at the house I used to call home, and feeling this terrible sense that I'd lost a part of myself. I was hurt, angry, and confused. What was I supposed to do now? Could I forgive her? Could I even look at her without feeling sick? The truth was, I didn't want to stay in a relationship that was built on lies and betrayal. I knew I had to make a decision, either fight for what was left or cut my losses completely. Eventually, I decided I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I called her, told her I wanted a clean break, that I couldn't do this anymore. She begged, of course, said she loved me, that she'd changed, that Carter meant nothing, that it was all just a mistake. But I knew better. I knew she was lying again. I could hear it in her voice, that bitchy tone she always used when she was trying to manipulate me. She thought she could spin her way out of this like she always did. That night, I finally mustered the strength to tell her it was over. I told her I was done trusting her, done pretending I didn't see what she was doing behind my back. I told her I was going to move on. She cried, begged, and said all the right words, but I didn't believe her anymore. I knew she was just trying to save her own skin, to keep her life as it was without consequence. Now I'm trying to rebuild myself. It's not easy. Every day is a challenge, fighting the anger, the heartbreak, the sense of betrayal. But I've learned a lot from this. I've learned that trust is fragile and that some people will lie and cheat without a second thought. I've also learned that I deserve more than someone who treats me like I'm nothing, just a backup plan. I may be hurting, but I'm also slowly healing. And I know that eventually I'll be okay again. Maybe I'll even find someone who respects me, who values honesty, and who I can trust with my heart. Until then, I'll keep moving forward, one step at a time. Looking back, I realize that this whole ordeal has changed me more than I expected. That feeling of betrayal cut so deep I thought I'd never recover. I used to believe in the idea of forever, of trust that could never be broken. Now I see that some lies are too big to ever truly forgive. Lisa's betrayal shattered that illusion, showed me that even the closest person can turn out to be your biggest enemy in disguise. I've learned to be more cautious, more guarded. I still get angry sometimes, especially when I see couples together, happy and unaware of how fragile trust really is. But I also understand that life goes on. I have a future ahead of me, and I owe it to myself to make it better. I've started focusing on myself, working on my mental health, and reconnecting with friends I'd let fall by the wayside. The pain is still there, but it's duller now, replaced by a quiet determination to move forward. If there's one thing I want to tell anyone reading this who might be in a similar situation, it's this: trust is a gift. Once it's broken, it's incredibly hard to rebuild. But life goes on, and so must you. Don't stay in a relationship where you're constantly doubting, where your feelings are dismissed, or where betrayal is just another day. Be honest with yourself. If you're hurting, don't ignore it. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and start fresh. I won't pretend that I'm completely over it yet. There are still nights when I lie awake, replaying the pain and wondering what I could have done differently. But I also know now that I'm stronger than I thought. I've faced the worst and come out the other side. I don't regret loving Lisa. I just regret trusting her more than I should have. Now I'm learning to trust myself again, to believe that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who values me for who I am. So if you're out there dealing with the aftermath of betrayal, just remember, you're not alone. It might hurt like hell now, but it gets better. Time heals wounds, and eventually your heart will find a way to mend. Keep going. Keep fighting. Because in the end, you're worth more than the pain she caused. And someday, you'll look back at this and realize it was just a chapter in your story, not the end.